Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at the modern AI chip revolution from a totally different angle. We're going to frame it not just as some wild engineering marvel, but actually as the climax of an undeclared, epic, 2,600-year-old philosophical war.
Okay, let's dive right in. There is a massive battle happening right now, completely without borders or armies. But make no mistake, silicon without philosophy is just mere engineering. This conflict is actively defining the gap between human thought and its mechanical echo. We are literally talking about the deepest intellectual confrontation of our era.
So, picture this. In one corner, we have 2,600 years of classical thinkers. Togas, papyrus, wax tablets, and chalk, just wrestling with what reasoning and reality actually are. And in the other corner, the absolutely blinding computational speed of modern silicon architecture, pushing out billions of floating-point operations, or flops, every single second. We're talking chalk versus flops, papyrus versus liquid-cooled nanometer nodes. It's wild.
Here is tonight's fight card. We've got 1. The undeclared war. 2. Socrates versus transformer attention. 3. Plato versus latent space. 4. Aristotle versus tensor cores. 5. Wittgenstein versus language games. And finally, 6. The final scorecard.
Section 1. The undeclared war. Setting the stakes.
Section 2. Socrates versus transformer attention. Let's get our first fighters in the ring.
Socrates fundamentally believed that truth isn't just handed down to us, it has to be drawn out. He used this rigorous interrogative dialogue known as the elenchus. Basically, he'd corner a politician or a general and just pepper them with questions, kind of acting as a midwife for ideas. For Socrates, knowledge is proven by examining conversational behavior under real pressure.
Now pit that Socratic dialogue directly against modern transformer networks. In a transformer, the attention mechanism is constantly asking which data tokens are most relevant to each other. Every single token is practically interrogating every other token to generate meaning. It is, quite literally, engaging in a structural, computational form of Socratic inquiry.
So, the crucial point we have to ask ourselves is this. If a large language model can perfectly simulate a Socratic debate through multi-turn prompting, even admitting mistakes and revising its positions, can the machine itself truly be examined? Well, the answer is kinda nuanced. AI can mimic this behavior perfectly. We even use specific Socratic prompts to force models to surface their hidden assumptions. But the thing is, the machine's revisions are strictly algorithmic pattern completion. AI completely lacks what Socrates called aporia, that sweat-inducing feeling of productive bewilderment and existential risk. The machine lacks the soul for genuine self-examination. So Socrates wins on substance, while the machine definitely wins on form.
Moving on to Section 3, Plato versus latent space. Plato's most radical claim was his theory of forms. He believed that true reality is actually a realm of perfect, eternal, abstract archetypes, and that the material things we see around us are just imperfect copies, like shadows on a cave wall. To Plato, the philosopher's grand task is to ascend from looking at mere copies to actually understanding those fundamental patterns.
Astonishingly, modern AI does exactly this. When a neural network extracts the latent pattern of a cat from millions of images, or does vector math where king minus man plus woman equals queen, it's effectively performing Platonic abstraction. It's finding the form of a concept through gradient descent. The high-dimensional geometry of the embedding space, that is literally Plato's form space. Mind-blowing, right?
And researchers are so aware of this, they literally refer to the Platonic representation hypothesis. They are actively designing explicit architectures, like the Joint Autoencoder Modulator, or JAM, to align vision and language models. They're testing fine-grained context to help AI escape Plato's cave and grasp a true shared reality.
Section 4. Aristotle versus tensor cores.
So, Aristotle invented the syllogism. Think of the absolute classic example. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. This brilliantly established that logic is a formal operation that produces outputs necessarily from inputs, completely independent of the actual content.
Now look at how we've mechanized that exact logic today. Modern tensor cores are essentially the ultimate syllogistic engine. While a traditional CPU thinks sequentially, one step at a time, the modern GPU applies matrix multiplications in parallel.
They are mass-producing thousands of math problems simultaneously to achieve logical inference at an industrial scale that Aristotle just couldn't have fathomed.
What's really fascinating here is the mapping to Aristotle's famous four causes. The silicon substrate is the material cause. The chip architecture is the formal cause. The robotic fabrication is the efficient cause. And the AI inference is the final cause. But there is a massive missing element. Every single inference the machine makes is derivative because it completely lacks nous, which is Aristotle's term for the human intuition needed to grasp the very axioms it computes on.
Section 5. Wittgenstein versus language games.
Wittgenstein argued in his later philosophy that language isn't about internal, private, mental pictures. Instead, it's about how words are practically used in social contexts, what he called language games. Asking for a coffee, telling a joke, commanding a dog. The meaning of a word is fundamentally its use in the language.
And this framework perfectly describes large language models. LLMs have absolutely no internal mind or private thoughts. They don't have a little mental picture of a dog in their head. Instead, they understand language purely by mastering the statistical patterns of how humans use words in context. They are the ultimate computational instantiation of meaning as use.
Yet here is the huge limitation. While an LLM can generate a flawless condolence message by playing the language game with statistical competence, it completely misses what Wittgenstein called the form of life. It has no body, no experience of loss, no human social obligations. So the syntax is absolutely present, sure, but the lived embodied form of life that actually gives the game its point, that is entirely missing.
Section 6. The final scorecard. Let's see who actually won this thing.
So, what should you take away from all this? Basically, it's a division of labor. AI absolutely dominates on scale, matrix math, and the mass production of abstract patterns. It excels at the mathematical simulation of form, but philosophy retains the undisputed crown when it comes to intuition, ethics, embodiment, and human consciousness. The ghost in the machine is literally just gradient descent, leaving the true human stakes entirely to us.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If the silicon chip has mastered the mechanics of human logic, generating forms and playing language games at billions of operations per second, what exactly is our role? It seems pretty clear our job is to provide the moral compass and lived experience required to actually steer it. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions and keep learning.